Hello and welcome to Positively United. It's actually now just gone midnight on Tuesday, the 14th of April. And this is a slightly later match reaction video than I was expecting to do because I didn't expect I'd be so angry after the game and would need to calm down before I did it. But we've just lost at home, 2-1 to Leeds, playing a performance that certainly in the first half was almost indescribably awful. It is really hard to find the words to contextualize to describe that that performance. Dismal, disjointed, lacking in energy, lacking in purpose. Some initial. This is just going to be a video really of me spouting off. To be honest with you, I'll leave the lessons learned video and the player ratings videos until tomorrow. But that performance can't go uncommented. For those people out there who've been spending the last week trashing the club, offering Harry Maguire an additional year contract with a possible 1-year extension, you get it now. That defence in the first 20 minutes looked utterly chaotic. And I mean the centre of the defence. Well, I don't think Mesraoui had a good game, and that's now one of many he hasn't performed well in. But Martinez, I can forgive Martinez because he's back after a long period of injury, and I was really surprised to actually see him play today. I thought it would be heaven. But it turned out to be Martinez. Yoro, who I absolutely think is a great player, a genuinely great player. I think he's going to be superb. But the problem, and I find it hard to understand, I find it hard to explain, and I thought he'd got over it, is that the first 10 or 15 minutes, and we saw it in the game against West Ham, the game against Everton, he looks petrified. Absolutely petrified. And he did calm down again, and there were some good things that he did towards the end of the game. But I'm sorry, the problem we had today was that the calm and the assurance that Maguire and Mainu offer this team were both missing. And as a consequence, in midfield and in central defence, in the first 15 minutes to 20 minutes of the game, we looked chaotic and scared. So those of you who have been questioning why Maguire's been offered a new contract, that's the reason why. It's one of the reasons why. He brings an assurance to the back four that without De Ligt being there is missing. I'll come to Martinez in a bit because Martinez should offer that assurance. But look, as I said, I'll come to that in just a moment. But Mainu we missed today too. I've been saying this about Mainu for ages. I mean, he won't figure in the player ratings because he didn't play. So I'll talk about him in this video. Mainu's skill is being there to receive the ball and then being the most level-headed player in the team. Even if you don't think he's the best player in the team, that's probably Bruno Fernandes. He's the most level-headed player in the team by a country mile. He receives the ball. He doesn't panic. He assesses the situation. I think he's a bit Scholes-like in the sense I think when he receives the ball, Mainu, I think he knows already what he wants to do with it. It's a hell of a skill. He's got it in abundance. He's not the flashiest player. So a lot of people don't seem to understand his true value, but his value is what was absent today, which was assurance and calmness in midfield. And my goodness me, we missed it. So Maguire and Mainu were big misses. But there were players on the pitch who underperformed. I've seen some people over the last few minutes saying that Ugarte wasn't bad tonight. He certainly grew into the game, there's no doubt about that. But my God, those first 20 minutes were just gruesome. How many times did he give the ball away? It's rare to see a player have the crowd on his back in the first 15 minutes, but Ugarte did. You could hear it. And there was a sense of trepidation whenever he got the ball. Who would he give it away to on the Leeds side? Leeds, by the way, should have been 2-0 up in the first 5 minutes. I mean, they started like whippets. They were right on it. Now, okay, they are fighting relegation, so you'd expect them to be in a sense. But you say compare them to Wolves or Tottenham. Wolves or Tottenham don't have that performance in them at all. I think Gary Neville actually pointed that out. Farke's done a great job. He really has. I think he's a good manager. I think he's a very good manager, actually. And Leeds were well up for it, and Leeds were well organised. Leeds knew exactly what they were going to do. Meanwhile, we looked half asleep. It's probably not the greatest advertisement for taking a week off in Dublin. But yeah, chaotic start to the game in defence. By the way, I thought Shaw was our best defender today by some distance. It's one of his better games in recent times, actually. I thought Shaw was excellent, actually. But Yoro, nervous start. Martinez. For those out there who are saying that the sending off was an injustice, give your head a wobble. What on earth was he doing? What he did was spectacularly stupid. It was adolescent. It was the kind of thing that a 19-year-old would do. What the hell was he playing at? It was clear it was deliberate. It was clear he knew what he was doing. He pulled Calvert-Lewin's hair. Now, okay. Those of us of a certain age might think back to watching football on television in the mid-1970s and might think of Billy Bremner and Johnny Giles in a game against United and think they used to kick literal lumps out of players' legs. What's the game turned into? Doesn't matter what the game's turned into. It has turned into it. And there are multiple cameras pointed at every player at every single moment of the game. Do you seriously think you're going to get away with pulling the hair of an opponent? Of course you're not. Stupidity. I was furious with Martinez for what he did. I'm not going to blame him for the fact that the game was lost, by the way. I think the game was lost before he got sent off. But he certainly made it an awful lot more difficult for us to get back into the game. I thought he was actually I thought the one good thing that came out of the game for United was how they reacted when they went down to 10 men. They actually reacted very well. That's the players on the pitch. Let's now come to the manager, the head coach. I thought that was Carrick's worst performance as head coach by some distance, and I thought it was actually quite troubling. It took an eternity for him to make the substitutions that were clearly required. Substitution should have been made before the sending off. The substitution should have been made at half time. I personally would have taken Ugarte off at half time. I would have brought Mbumo on, pushed Bruno Fernandes into a deeper position, which is where he ended up, by the way, quarterbacking. But he should have been asked to do that a lot earlier on. at half-time. As I said, Ugarte off and Mbeumo on. Bruno pulled back into a deeper position. I think Cunha put in the central position and Mbeumo playing on the left, which he can do. But that didn't happen at half-time. And I got a horrible feeling that we might not have seen any substitutions until very late in the game had the sending off not occurred. I think that's really worrying. I want to see Michael Carrick get the job for a whole host of reasons. I think he's done overall very, very well since he's been temporary head coach. But there was a moment in the first half. It was when we went 1-0 down. The cameras went over to Sir Jim Ratcliffe in the stand. He did not look a happy man. Now, of course, his team was 1-0 down and looked like they were under the ropes. On the ropes, sorry. So perhaps it's not surprising he didn't look a happy man, but I didn't think he looked a happy man at all. Now, there's been rumours over the last several days that there's one person at Old Trafford who really wants to see Luis Enrique be manager. Be a hell of a thing if that's Sir Jim, with the connections he has to French football. Because looking at the scowl on his face today, I'd be worried if I was Michael Carrick. The sad truth is that Carrick shouldn't be here. And he shouldn't be here for a couple of reasons. First one is he was badly done by in January and February. I posted on X just before the game when the team was announced. None of us saw the Mainu injury. None of us were predicting that Mainu wouldn't be in the game today. But what were so many of us saying in January when we didn't strengthen our midfield? That was utterly irresponsible. It's not just being wise after the event. I said so at the time. We should have dipped into the market in January. Didn't need to be a solution, a permanent solution. It just needed to be an injection of quality into our midfield. When I say an injection of quality, I don't mean someone necessarily as good as Casemiro. That's going to be very difficult to do in January. Not someone as good as Mainu. That's going to be difficult in January. I tell you what, though, there were definitely people available in January who were better than Ugarte. And we could have got one of them on loan. And we didn't. And I really, really hope we don't pay the ultimate price of that. But Michael Carrick might do. Carrick today should have had somebody to bring into midfield to replace Mainu who would do a better job than Ugarte. But he doesn't. That's not his fault. He was let down. And we can blame Ineos and the Glazers for that. But Michael Carrick's got to take some of the blame too. As I said, the substitutions were too late. I think they were also questionable substitutions. By the time he made the subs, we were 2-0 down and we were down to 10 men. Surely that was the time to go for it. Go for broke. You may as well lose 3-0 than 2-0. Or 3-1 than 2-1. And by the time that he made the substitutions, I hate to say this, it was pretty clear that Šeško was doing absolutely nothing in that game. Now, we'll come to why in a moment. But just the bold fact at the moment is Šeško was doing nothing and looked like he would do nothing. If I was Xerxes, I'd be wondering, what do I have to do to get on the pitch? Or, if I was Cunha, I might be thinking, well, couldn't I play up front and Šeško come off? There were so many options available to Carrick, even with the paucity of central forwards that we have. And by the way, talking about that, many, many people talked about getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin in as a essentially a bench forward in the summer, somebody who could be brought on. I think it was a great idea. And it's again one of those moments this season where you think opportunities were missed. Anyway, back to tonight. The substitutions lacked courage. The substitutions lacked bravery. The substitutions felt a bit timid. And if there is an accusation which can be levelled at Carrick at the moment, it's maybe timidity. And that's not a good sign. I've got a feeling that result might be a lot more damaging to Carrick than perhaps any of us at the moment can really appreciate. I tell you what, it'll get very damaging to him if United end up on the receiving end of a bad result against Chelsea at the weekend. For those of us who want Carrick to become the permanent head coach, today was a bad day. We shouldn't gloss over that. The performances have been in a downward trend over the last few games. I know it's hard to tell when we haven't played for 23 days, but they have been. We can't deny it. I think we need to see quite a performance against Chelsea to cement our position in third place, to put Chelsea back where they belong, but also for Carrick to make some kind of statement that he can rise to the challenge, that he can be flexible, that he can bring different answers to the table when there are different problems in front of him. Because at the moment, I think he's got a strong hand, but he's not playing it necessarily as well as he could. That's where I'll leave it. Disappointing result. A disappointing result, but a far more disappointing performance. You know, you could always lose a game. And he's against Leeds. It doesn't matter where Leeds are. They're always going to play their heart out against United. So the defeat isn't the shock. The shock is the performance. That first half was bad. That was as bad as Ruben Amorim's performances before he got sacked. That's not a great place to be. We thought we'd left that behind. Be very interesting to see what the reaction will be in the game against Chelsea. Before then, tomorrow, I'll produce my 5 lessons learned, and I'll do my player ratings. You can probably guess there's going to be some fruity player ratings against some of the players tomorrow. But I'll leave it until I say tomorrow. It's going to be later today. Sorry this was so late, but as I said, I didn't want to come to the camera straight after the game because I was in quite a mood at the end of that game, as I know a few other fans were that I could see and I was talking to and exchanging messages with. I just wanted to let a bit of time pass by. But I'll see you later today with those 2 videos. And roll on Chelsea. Can't wait for that game because I think we need to put that performance tonight well and truly behind us. But we'll see if they can. Martinez will be banned, obviously, from that game. He won't be available. So it'll be, well, it depends on whether Harry Maguire gets that additional punishment that is potentially on the horizon for him. If he doesn't, he'll be available at the weekend. But if he does get additional punishment, our centre-back partnership on it's Saturday, isn't it? On Saturday will be Yoro and Heaven. Well, wait and see. Okay. Until then, let's try and remain positively united, even when it's difficult to be.